everyone and welcome back to Mariana Math Books. My name is Mariana and today I am here with a quick but mega wrap-up. So this year I wanted to do wrap-ups for every month or some form of wrap-ups to let you know what I have been reading, and I haven't been doing wrap-ups. I only did the Historathon wrap-up that I will link down below, you can watch. So today what I want to do is to remedy that and do a mega wrap-up for the books that I have read so far, except for the books that I have read in March, because I will try to do a March wrap-up. I will not talk in detail about all of the books because we will be here all night. Some of these books will get separate videos, hopefully, because we have established that I am a Sagittarius that has a lot of projects and gets excited and then abandons them. So hopefully I will, sorry, I can't cross my fingers, it's a brain tumor thing. There you go. So hopefully they will get their own individual videos. I don't know when, but hopefully they will, and if not, well, sorry. Anyway, so without further ado, let's talk about the books. These are all the books I read in January and February of this year. The first book I finished in January was the graphic novel In by Mc Phail. I actually thought this was a graphic memoir, but I'm pretty sure it's a novel and not a memoir. This novel follows a young illustrator who is learning how to do adult life and searching for real human connection. I loved this novel. I do want to reread it. I can see myself rereading it and at least rereading certain portions of it. I gave it 5 stars and this is one of the books that I want to do a separate video for. Then I finished the book Alpha, which is the first book in the Ghost Mountain Wolf Shifters series by Audrey Faye. This one is a paranormal, I want to say romance. I would classify it as romance, but I think it's not technically. You know, when you get into technicalities of definitions, I think it's not technically because it doesn't have like a complete romance story from beginning to end in the book, but it does have a romance that is central to the book, and I can see that this romance will develop throughout the books. Anyway, it's paranormal, my kind of thing, my jam, paranormal urban fantasy type thing. My problem with the book is that it doesn't have a narrative structure. There are 9 books to the series and it feels like Audrey Faye, the author, wrote one big story and then just I don't know, took the number of pages and divided it into 9 chunks. So the book doesn't have a beginning and an ending like a story. And I don't mean that it has to have a specific ending. I don't mind open endings, but you have to have a narrative structure in a book, and this doesn't have one. It starts somewhere and it ends somewhere. As I said, it feels like the author wrote a complete story that was way too long, and so she divided it into 9 chunks, but it doesn't make sense narratively. I will be continuing with the series, but it's not high priority for me. I'm not dying to see what happens next, precisely because there's no narrative structure. So it felt weird when it ended, but I do want to keep reading because there are wolf shifters, there are bear shifters, there are falcon shifters. I mean, yes please. You will honestly convince me to read this series just by telling me that there are polar bear shifters in this. So there you go. Next, I finished another graphic work which I will hopefully talk about also in a separate video that I want to do. I'm not going to do individual book reviews, but I do want to group certain books to talk about them. This is one of them. So it's called Parenthesis by Élodie Durand, and this one is a graphic memoir, and this one is translated from the French, and it is a story of Élodie Durand, the author, who went through a brain tumor, and it is a story of, you know, her time with the tumor, her surgeries, her recovery, all of that. This one was also excellent, also gave it 5 stars. I related a lot to this book because with my first brain surgery, I went through a lot of the same things that she goes through. There is one scene where they have to drill into her skull, and that is something that I had to go through as well. So that moment was very, very poignant to me. Anyway, even if you haven't had anything drilled to your skull, I highly recommend it, 5 stars. And if you want to try a translated graphic memoir, then pick this one up. The next book I finished, I talk about in my mid-quarter wrap-up for Historathon, so I'm not going to talk about it here, but it is Teotihuacan, an exceptional city of Mesoamérica by Linda Manzanilla. This one is in Spanish. I am roughly translating the title, and if you want to hear my thoughts about it, you can watch my Historathon mid-quarter wrap-up. Then I finished Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which was gifted to me by my friend Cara at Wild Book Garden. She gifted it to me in my birthday more than a year ago, and I finally read it, and I should have read it sooner. I see why Cara gifted it to me. She knew I was going to love it, and she was right. I gave this 5 million stars. Olivia Atwater is now one of my favorite authors, and I want to read everything she has ever written. I actually have that project for this year. I want to read everything by Olivia Atwater. I won't talk about it here because hopefully I will be able to do an Olivia Atwater themed video where I will talk about Half a Soul more in detail. So I will just quickly read from a Goodreads review. It says, if you feel like a cozy fantasy in a historical setting with a top-tier romance in the plot, look no further than this one. It also has some very subtle but poignant social justice themes that I wasn't expecting that are central to the romance. So if that sounds good to you, it's set in Regency, did I say that? Set in the Regency era, but in a fantasy. The series is called Regency Fairy Tales. So if something whimsical of the sort sounds good to you, please go ahead and read it. I love it so much, and I am in love with Olivia Atwater, not only as a writer but as a person, and I don't know anything about her as a person other than what she has written. I am now subscribed to her newsletter, and I love her, but I will gush more about her in a separate video because I need to gush about her. After that one, I read 2 short stories by Olivia Atwater that are free if you subscribe to her newsletter, and they are in the world of the Regency fairy tales, which are The Latch and The Lord Sorcier, who deal more with the character of Elias Wilder, who is the Lord Sorcier in this universe. And Elias is a sweetheart. I love him, and I love these 2 just because they are about him, but they were short stories, so there's not a lot to say about them. Then I finished another book that I read for Historathon that you can also see my thoughts in my mid-quarter wrap-up, which is The Invaders, How Humans and Their Dogs Drove Neanderthals to Extinction by Pat Shipman. I gave this one 4 stars, and again, if you want to see my full thoughts, you can watch my Historathon mid-quarter wrap up. Next, I read When Gracie Met the Grump by Mariana Zapata, which is the newest Mariana Zapata book. I hadn't heard about that one. It is her 2022 release. I was super excited because I really love Mariana Zapata books, and this one is her first speculative romance. So this one is about a superhero who is the Grump. So when I heard it's Mariana Zapata writing speculative romance and you know the title When Gracie Met the Grump, I thought it was going to be super cute, but sadly this isn't Mariana Zapata's best. The first half of this book is literally insufferable. If it wasn't for the fact that I have read many Mariana Zapata and I know that she always turns it around at the end and makes me love the characters by the end, if I didn't know that, I would have DNF'd it at like 20%. But I stuck to it because I like Mariana Zapata and I know her books. She did turn it around, so the second half was better, but the first half just really ruined it for me. I'm glad she's delving into speculative romance. You know, hopefully the next one will be better. Or maybe she's just better at writing contemporary, which is fine. Wasn't her best. I then finished the essay Leer Mata by Luna Miguel. Leer Mata was a single essay. If you watched my book haul, my holiday book haul, you saw that book that I bought. It's a single essay about reading. Leer Mata means to read kills or reading kills. So it is a literary essay about the act of reading. I really liked the first half of the essay, and then the second half got a bit too. You know how literary fiction writers love to write odes to suicide? I don't understand that obsession with literary fiction writers and readers and suicide, and this whole concept of suicide being intellectually superior, because if you are intelligent you understand that life doesn't have meaning, and so if you strive for meaning you are stupid, but if you're smart you want to kill yourself. That literary concept that literary fiction writers and readers love. So it's another case of first half good, second half bad. Then I finished Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, which is the first book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy in the whole realm of the Ellerlings as a whole, which has, I believe, 16 books, something like that. I am body reading the realm of the Ellerlings with Elle. It has been super fun to be reading a super long series, body reading a super long series. We are having the best time, and we both love Robin Hobb, her writing, her characters, her series. I'm not going to talk a lot about this here because I will spend hours gushing about Robin Hobb. I am not one to be calling authors kings and queens, but Robin Hobb, what a queen she is. I can see why they call her the queen of fantasy. 5 stars. I'm sure by the end of the series it will get 5 million stars. Robin Hobb, like, she can do no wrong for me at this point. I can read anything that she writes. I don't care. Love her. Perfect. Queen. Yeah. Then I finished a super cute, super adorable, very much up my alley romance, paranormal romance, Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare. I read this one because Mara at Books Like Wow, she loves this series and she loves Jessica Clare, and Mara is one of those booktubers where any romance she recommends I will for sure like it. So when she highly recommended the series, and it's a witchy series, paranormal, urban fantasy type thing, I was like, I have to read it. So this is the first book in the series, and this is about a woman who is a fan of a card game, like a magic like a Magic the Gathering type card game. And so she applies for a job where she thinks she's applying to be the assistant of a designer that works in these cards. I think they're called in the book like spellcraft cards, something like that. And so she applies for a job where they are calling for spellcraft experts, and she thinks it's about the game, but it's actual spellcraft, and she is applying not to be an assistant but to be the familiar of a 1,000-year-old Roman witch. And so they hire her, and fun ensues. This witch has a nephew who is a 1,000-year-old warlock who is super grumpy. You can take it from there. You know how romance works. Adorable, perfect, funny. Cannot wait for book number 2 to come out. 5 stars. I don't even know if I gave it 5 million stars or 5 stars, but perfect. I love it. Can't wait for the next one. Then I read another graphic non-fiction. This one is called A Quick and Easy Guide to Sex and Disability, and it is just what it says. It's a quick and easy guide to sex and disability. It's super short. You can read it in one sitting, and you have to read it because this has to be required reading for all of humanity. I won't go deep into why, because it's such a personal topic, but I have an illness, and I'm 33 years old, so I could relate to some of the situations that are described in this quick and easy guide. I will just read to you what I wrote in my Goodreads review because it's very short. It says, this should be required reading for every human being on the planet. It made me think of past experiences, of things I wish I had known were okay or not okay. So simple, but it just opens your eyes to things. Consent, how to live your sexual life, even if you don't have a disability, just in general. Such a quick read and so eye-opening. Then I finished How to Be Perfect, the correct answer to every moral question by Michael Schur. I heard this one in audiobook. Michael Schur is the creator of The Good Place, the TV show. And I'm actually not, I haven't watched The Good Place, but my sister is a fan. But I actually picked this book up because I write about perfectionism in my work, so I thought it would be good for that. But this book is actually not about perfectionism. This was such a good surprise. This book is about ethics and moral philosophy. It is about how to be a good person. He goes through it by explaining, since Aristotle all the way to, Kant and even much more recent philosophers. I'm bad with names, so I don't remember all of the names, but he goes through the most important moral philosophers, and he explains their teachings, and then he tries to apply those teachings to everyday scenarios, such as, should I take the shopping cart back, or should I just leave it in the parking lot? What makes me a good person? And he also deals with bigger questions. Do we have a moral obligation to help every people in the planet? It's an excellent book. As the daughter of a professor of ethics who has constantly been in discussion with her father because she has never in her life understood Kant, I can finally tell you that I now understand Kant, and I can now tell my dad that I understand Kant. It is a hilarious book. If you are going to pick it up, it is required to pick it up in audiobook, and I'm not joking. Like, if you are going to read it, you have to listen to the audiobook. Have to. As I said, Michael Schur is the creator of The Good Place. He narrates the audiobook, but he also has cameos from the whole cast of The Good Place. I know he will be talking and he'll say like, oh, you're probably wondering this. And then you hear Kristen Bell say, oh, I wonder how to be a good person, you know, like that type of thing. So the whole cast of The Good Place has cameos here, and he is a comedian, so he has excellent, you know, he's excellent at narrating his own jokes. So just please pick up the audio. If you have zero interest in moral philosophy, like, don't pick this up, because even if it's super basic, and I have seen reviews of this book where people say he's very condescending, if you at all know anything about moral philosophy, you will probably feel it's condescending or stupid, or I don't know. But someone like me who never understood Kant and can't have conversations with her dad about ethics, it was great. It was great, because that's why I needed a super basic book about that. This is actually his research for The Good Place. So I didn't know this, but for The Good Place, he did actual research with philosophers, and he read tons of books about moral philosophy, and he had philosopher consultants in the writer's room. How cool is that? Anyway, this is like a compilation of his research for that show. So again, pick it up in audio, 5 stars. I want to pick up now that I have listened to the audiobook, which is a requirement. Now I can buy a physical copy. I want to get a physical copy so I can read it again and annotate like crazy. Then I finished the essay collection No Time to Spare, Thinking About What Matters by Ursula K. Leguin. Ursula K. Leguin started a blog when she was in her 80s where she wrote about life, just musings about life, and this is a compilation of the articles that she posted in her blog. So some of them are about growing old or about meaning in life, some of them are about her cat, and some of them are about politics. The ones about politics were my favorite ones. I am in love with her politics, and now I want to read a lot of her fiction. She's super funny. Super funny. If you're a fan of Ursula K. Le Guin and you haven't read her nonfiction, please do. This is my second Le Guin book. I had read her writing book Steering the Craft, which is also excellent and super funny, and now I read this one, and now I have to go and read her fiction, which is what she's known for. I then finished a quick picture book called This is a Dog Book, which I read in Spanish. I bought it for myself as a gift to celebrate something that happened in my life, and this is just a super cute, adorable picture book about a bunny who wants to convince dogs that he is a dog so he can be in the dog book, and the dogs test him, and they give him a doggy test to see if he's actually a dog as he says, because they have a suspicion that he's actually a bunny. Adorable. I then finished the memoir A Heart That Works by Rob Delaney, and I think I'm going to make a separate video for this one. I have never done a single book review video, but I feel like I must for this one because it was too... it hit me so deep, and it's so good, so good, that I need to make a separate video. I will just quickly tell you that this is about Rob Delaney. He's an actor, and he writes about the time when his 2-year-old son dies of brain cancer. His son is diagnosed when he's 1 year old, And then he goes through a long process of surgeries and chemotherapy and all that stuff. And this memoir is about that time in his life, and then about the death of his son and him reflecting on the death of his son. It is the most honest book I have ever read in my life. It is so full of anger. Like, you can feel the anger. It's so angry, which is what I loved about it. It's so cathartic to read. If you have gone through any kind of grief, please pick up this book, because Rob Delaney, he dares to say things that I feel like we are scared to say. Like, I haven't had anyone die of cancer, but I have cancer myself. I haven't died myself, clearly, but I struggle with thoughts of dying and of illness and the grief of being a healthy person that suddenly gets diagnosed with, a major disease. And there are so many quotes in this where I feel like if you opened my Kindle, it would be easier to find quotes that are not highlighted than quotes that are, because everything is highlighted. And I related to, like, there are quotes where he's just being angry at life and at people and telling everyone to go F themselves. Where I am like, I like, you are putting words to what I feel like every day. So I very much appreciate his anger and his honesty. But in all of that anger and honesty, I mean, amidst all that anger, there is so much love and compassion for people and humans, so much love, and also humor. He's very funny, very funny. You laugh out loud in the book. So it's angry, but it's also funny, and it's full of love. Just, this one is, I feel like I gave you a lot of reading assignments, but add this one to the curriculum. Add this one. 5 stars. 5 stars. Just read it. I feel the need to warn you, though, this is a tough read. So don't pick it up unless you feel like you can take it. Rob Delaney won't be shy about telling you how they put the dead body of his 2-year-old son in a bag and took it away from his house. He won't be shy about telling you how he had to watch doctors put a hole through his 2-year-old son's throat and watch blood pour out of his son's throat. He won't be shy about telling you the amount of grief he feels when he thinks about his son dying, how he thinks sometimes that if he died, it would be a happy thing because that would mean being with his son again. He won't be shy about telling you everything without sugarcoating anything. So, just beware of that if you decide to pick up the book, which I very much suggest. It's tough, but I feel it's one of those books that make you just grow as a human being. So those are all the books that I read in January and February. As I said, I'm not going to talk about the books that I have read in March or that I am currently reading, because this video has been long enough and I have talked about so many books as it is. that I'm just going to leave it there. I will leave it at that. I never know what to say at the end of these videos, but I look forward to hearing you in the comments or reading you in the comments. And that will be it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon in another bookish video. In the meantime, I wish you happy reading.